channel, I'm Tom Quigley, bringing the latest tips, tricks and techniques for all your contemporary painting and drawing needs. So we're back with another video. We made it to Monday in lockdown, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video on stick and ink, in particular using Indian ink. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is more importantly and more specifically, it's going to be about mark making. So if you don't know about mark making or you want to know a little bit more about it, then stay with us and I'll get my stuff ready and we'll get moving. So we're going to be looking at mark making, and more specifically in my video, I'm going to be looking at using it in the rural environment. But that doesn't say that you can't use it anywhere else, in maybe urban environment or maybe objects or even abstract pieces of artwork. Now, why is it such an important thing? Well, basically, it all comes down to using a visual language. So you might want to create the illusion of texture in your own individual way, just like you would have your own signature. Having your own marks to recreate certain textures is going to be the way you do stuff. So the way I have a go at playing around with using textures, you can copy those or you can actually make up your own ones. Now there's many artists that have used this technique before, but today in particular, we're going to be looking at Van Gogh's drawings. And throughout all of his drawings, just using pencil, you'll be able to see how he created the illusion of all the marks within the rural environment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my piece of paper ready for you, and then we're going to have a play around doing some techniques, and then we can use them in the piece of work later on in the video. So hope you all can join in. Okay, so we're back looking at the piece of work now, and as you can see what I've done, I've actually created some of these squares. They're just 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters, but they're not perfect. And I've done quite a few of them, but we're just going to concentrate on these first 8 at the moment. Now what we're actually going to be using, we're actually going to be just using a normal household skewer. You might have one of these for barbecues or what sort, but it doesn't stop you actually going out in the garden and actually using a proper stick if you wanted to. And the first 4 on the top line, I want you just to get familiar using it. How can you use it? How many different variety of ways can I hold it? Can I use it? Can I dip the ink in and make some marks on the page? And the most simple one is just creating some lines. This is just Indian ink. It's been decanted into just a small quink bottle, just for easy of use. Now sometimes you've got to make sure it's coated quite a lot on there. So let's just have a play around with some marks. Very simple ones, as I say, just playing around with some lines. Now you've got to remember, when using certain materials or tools, you're not actually going to get the same quality of marks that you would do in other particular mediums. But that is the beauty of it. It's the whole point. It might not come out very strong, or it might come out scratchy. That's the beautiful mark making qualities of that particular material. That's why you would use that over something else. So just bear that in mind, that you're not going to get photorealistic qualities. You're just going to have a play around with using the marks. So we've done that on there. That's relatively simple and easy. Second way of using it, how about using, if we coat the ink on the side of it, we can actually drag it on there, and we get these really quite nice ones on there. Again, you can put it on the page and maybe roll it on there. Mine's not the best one to use. There you go. You could also think about using some stippling. Very simple. Just get the edge on there. So this might be, I don't know, it could be for sand in the rural environment, or maybe at the beach. Could be stubble on a portrait. The possibilities for the mark making is endless. It's entirely up to you where you want to go with it. Second one with the stumbling that you could have a go at doing, or stippling, sorry, not stumbling, is maybe use the end of the stick on there. I was getting some larger ones happening on here. You can actually break the skewer, and now we're left with these very scratchy marks that, when dipped in the ink, we get these really lovely marks. Okay, where the ink, because what you'll find is that the ink, when it's on the stick, it'll drip down to the bottom, so you get these puddles of really dark areas, and then when it starts to dry out, you get these really fine marks, scratchy marks on there. Now I've only done some really small ones. You don't have to put them in boxes if you don't want to. You can actually work on a larger surface. Now, once you've played around with the stick itself, now you want to think about manipulating and recreating certain marks for the objects or for the subject matter that you are looking at. So you might be a little bit more specific within your mark making. So say, for example, you might want to do some fields. If you look at Van Gogh's work, he seems to use these dashes in the distance, overlapping on the work there. You can actually use the stick itself, which I haven't done there, which is dragging one on there like that. Some more ones. And if you fill out the actual box itself, it's going to look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So really try, don't give up just after doing a couple, keep going. I'm only going to do a few. I might continue this for a time lapse just so you can see what other mark makings I'm doing. So I'm just doing some circles here. These could be pebbles or stones. Another one you could play around with is almost like a scribble sketch. I do this one like a figure of 8. So if we just do the figure of 8, small ones. Okay, it's quite nice that there's a big puddle of ink there. Keep on going back to it, just reusing that. Just doing them small figure of 8s. Remember, try to recreate the texture. You're not doing it exactly. So, you know, if you're doing leaves on a tree, for example, you wouldn't put each individual leaf on there. You just want to quickly mark it on the page. You know, you might not have the time, especially if you're recording this outside in the landscape. You might be only doing this for the 10 minutes. You're not going to be able to get every single detail on there. So what would it look like as a whole, not as individual details? The next thing that you want to consider is actually start combining some of these together. So maybe using the dashes with the circles on top. Again, with Van Gogh's work, if he's creating some flowers or foliage in the distance, you might create some lines with some circles on the top there. This one could well be a fence going to the distance. You might want to play around with doing some of these lines, but maybe for waves or wood, the texture of wood. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue with this just to finish off the rest of them, and then we're going to show you how we can use some of these within our work. So I've finished my mark making techniques now. Hopefully you've had a go yourself and you're now fully equipped with your mark making skills. Just bear in mind, if you haven't got any stick and ink, you can play around with some of these marks using biro or pen. Or if you haven't got any black ink at home, you could play around with maybe some food colouring. You can mix up some coffee, just make it a little bit thicker so you've got lots of colour in there. Or maybe even gravy browning. It's all fun experimenting, so just have a go at home and just see what the outcomes are. A couple of the techniques that I actually did further on in the video was this one here, which was a wash of ink. I just used a paintbrush and diluted it, but then I've added some salt in there. What that does, it draws out some of the moisture and then creates some of the marks on the page, which is really quite nice. On this one here also, I use masking tape. I just make sure that you tear the masking tape. So it's just got a lovely broken edge. If you don't, sometimes it looks a little bit too harsh on the eye. So there are two extra ones that you can have a go at doing. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to use some of these within my drawing. I'll put it on a time lapse so you can watch it, and then we'll discuss it afterwards. So that's it for another video on mark making using stick and ink. Hopefully it was beneficial for you and you're able to use some of these techniques in some form or other in your own artwork. It'd be lovely to see them. Please tweet me them or put them on my Facebook. I'm always happy to have a look at other people's work. What I would say, if you really like this video, please comment or like on them. It's always appreciated. And if you want to see similar videos in the future, then just hit that subscribe button. We just want to make sure these, growing the channel as much as we can, sharing it to a wider audience. But yeah, until next time, see you later, bye.